Okay, so today I've decided to put together an almost definitive import guitar brand tier list. How do the import guitar brands stack up right now? Let's take a closer look. Now, last tier video, we went through about 80 of the best and the worst Epiphones. Link below the like button you can check out after this video if you haven't seen it yet. Definitely worth your time. Now, this is a bit more of a difficult list to put together because like a $100 Epiphone SL is a completely different guitar in terms of specs, in terms of quality, in terms of feel to a $900 Epiphone 1959 Les Paul Standard, for example. $100 Harley Bentons aren't even made in the same factory as the $400 Fusions, not even the same country. And that situation is similar with a lot of brands. Jackson is the same. Same brand, but different tier guitars are made in completely different places. So I'll do my best to try to rank each brand overall and in context, still expecting to piss a lot of people off, but fuck it, let's get into it. All right, so here's my tier list that I've compiled about 30 import brands, and these are ones I've actually tried, so I can actually speak about without completely talking out of my ass. So let's start with Squier, because Squier is one of the first brands, if not the first brand, that springs to mind whenever anyone talks about budget guitar brands. This is the brand that most of us probably even started on. Be honest, who else had a black or a blue Squier Strat covered in stickers? Who still does? I do. It's modded to shit, and I love that thing. Now, Squier is kind of a difficult one to rank because they've been around for a while, and quality has not always been consistent. In fact, even the models themselves haven't been super consistent. They've been around for decades, and apparently the Squier Bullet Strat that I have has never officially existed in this configuration. But lately, Squire's been pumping out some cool guitars. The newest iteration of the Affinity series added a Tele Deluxe and a bunch of metallic finishes. The Contemporary series is sick. They've added roasted maple necks to a lot of their models. And yeah, other import brands, which we'll talk about, do roasted maple as well, but Squier is everywhere, man. They have an insane global distribution network. They're in every store around the world. So they're making roasted maple on budget guitars genuinely mainstream. Guitars like the Contemporary Active Jazzmaster or the Strat Special are really cool. And they're originals, not just affordable versions people buy if they can't afford a, quote, real Fender. Although they do that as well in like the Classic Vibe series, which are fantastic mod platforms. That's the other thing. Squiers are so modular, you can go full Ship of Theseus, replacing everything, mod them to within an inch of their life. The main point is generally these days, Squier makes a great foundation. So a controversial one to start out with, but I'm putting Squier in S tier. The sheer variety of what they have is crazy. Everything from a paranormal offset Telecaster to a Contemporary Active Starcaster. Quality has gone way up since the early 2000s, and I'm not just talking about build quality. Internally, they've ditched the cheap mini pots and are using full corn-fed sized pots and everything. And Fender's pricing is getting a little steep across the line, which we'll talk about more in a second, but Squier has some great options in the $300 to $500 range that are super moddable later down the line. They were borderline A, S tier for me, but the fact that they're popularizing roasted maple into the true affordable mainstream, where you can literally just pick one off the wall at any Guitar Center, that pushed them into S tier. I can already feel the comments and the dislikes coming in. We move. Next, Epiphone. What do we say about Epiphone? There are some very split opinions on Epiphone. A big reason for that is Epiphone's high-end catalog is very, very different from its low-end. And they have D-shaped neck profiles and poly finishes instead of C-shapes and nitro. So if you're expecting an Epiphone to feel exactly like a Gibson, it just won't. It just will not. But if you take away that expectation, they make some great shit at the upper end. I don't really recommend their lower end stuff, and that's why I'm gonna put them in A. Listen, I'm a big Epiphone fan. This channel was basically built on Epiphone and LTD demos. Again, a big thing that they have going for them is variety. Just did the Epiphone tier list video ranking 80 plus Epiphones, and you guys called me out in the comments for still missing a lot of them. And I was almost gonna go with B because their lower end stuff can be pretty garbage. And prior to this year, the quality of the ones that I tried was kind of lacking relative to other brands in the same price point. But when you get to those higher tier ones, like the collaborations with the custom shop and especially the signature models, that's when you get some really cool ones. I mean, you've got Tommy Thayer's Electric Blue Les Paul, Brent Hines Silverburst Flying V, Matt Hafey's Snowfall, a bunch of uniquely spec'd guitars that would cost you thousands from Gibson's custom shop. And if Matt Hafey's Origin models are anything to go by, Epiphone has really stepped it up dealing with scratchy frets and rolling those fingerboard edges. So I would say the state of Epiphone at the end of 2022 if you ignore the cheap stuff. The quality and variety of the upper end stuff is borderline S tier, but we're still taking the Les Paul Studio LT into account, so yeah, A. We're gonna have to watch this space though. The price point of some of the signature models lately has been creeping up and up. We're starting to get to the point where they aren't as good bang for buck as they were before. But yeah, this is a tier list for how the import brands stand in 2022. We'll have to see what happens next year. I guess that means we have to talk about Kramer now, and see? And that may be kind of harsh, because every Kramer that I've demoed has been fun. They've been really fun, actually, but as a brand, they're essentially a one-trick pony, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when you're a one-trick pony in a crowded niche, which they are, they're in the same 80s nostalgia super strat category as Charvel and EVH, you have to be the best or show ambition, and they aren't, and they don't. They just kind of play in the nostalgia of being the brand that Eddie Van Halen used to play in the glory years, but there's literally an EVH brand. Spec-wise, they're actually pretty okay for the price. Seymour Duncans, Floyd Rose 1000s with D-tunas. The Jersey Star and Hot Wheels ones are eye-catchers for sure, and the custom graphics collection is pretty cool if you're into that vibe, but quality-wise, both Charvel and EVH are superior for the money, and they do more than just the one thing that Kramer does. So yeah, C. Then PRS SE. B. What I like about PRS SE is they tend to be more affordable than other well-regarded import counterparts of high-end brands. That was a fucking mouthful. You know, while Epiphone, LTD, and Ibanez premiums are creeping up to and over $1,000, a PRS SE Tremonti is still $800 for the flametop version, $700 for the standard black, which sounds great. There is a reason for that. The proprietary tuners, electronics, and nut don't tend to be as good as on those other brands. So you have the lower cost of entry, but sometimes you still have that problem you had with older Epiphones where it's like, to get anything resembling tuning stability, you're gonna want to replace that nut at least, if not the tuners as well. And sometimes the pickups can be kind of muddy, or really muddy in the case of the 7-string, so you might want to replace those too. But that's not always the case. The custom 2408 I tried was fantastic in every regard, and PRS SE tops and colors are incredible. So in my experience, they aren't as consistently reliable out of the box compared to some other brands, but even if you have to fix them up so they stay in tune, the tops make them worth saving. And while some of the signature models are really cool, like the Tremonti, Mark Holcomb 7-string, especially in walnut, there isn't too much variety across the entire lineup. Basically, you either like them all or you don't like them at all. That's the right call. B tier. Then LTD, and LTD is an instant nailed on S tier. Let me explain. For a few years now, they've not only been the most consistent import brand, but every guitar I've tried from them has been to a standard no one else can match. And in 2022, that applies all the way down the line. And because of their size and reputation, they're the market leader when it comes to progressive features. When they adopt something, it causes a shift in the market. Everyone else starts adopting it too. They were one of the first to start putting Fishman Fluence into production guitars. Now they're everywhere. They were one of the first to install Evertunes in production guitars. Now every quote-unquote metal brand needs to have at least one too. And as of last year, all their 1000 series guitars have stainless steel frets across their entire lineup. The prices, yeah, inflation has definitely hit them as it's hit everyone, but they aren't even outrageous compared to other brands if you line them up spec for spec. And the neck shapes are some of the most comfortable in the guitar world. Easy S tier, especially at the 1000 series level. LTD makes the best modern metal import guitars you can buy today. Then let's talk Agile. Man, I'm so glad this brand is still around. I heard that they'd gone up for sale, wasn't quite sure what was going on with the future of the company, but they make some of the best affordable carved top single cuts out there. $5.99, made in a reputable Korean factory, ebony fingerboard with a compound radius, nice tops, and fucking neck through. The one I had was a heavy guitar, but upper fret access was so good. I also tried one with a Floyd that was really fun as well. They do a lot of headless and ridiculous extended range ones these days, like a fucking 10-string fan fret for no reason. Love it. I guess I'll go with B tier, because the colors and tops really stand out. Quality just tends to be a little hit or miss with them. Then Sterling. Sterling's another weird one where the rank could vary wildly depending on whether you're talking about the high-end stuff or the low-end stuff. Taken in isolation, around the $400, $500 mark, these are basically S tier. The SR50, CT50, oiled asymmetric roasted maple necks are so good. Even the lower tier ones have that asymmetric neck shape that sets them apart. Going above that though, like $1,000 or above, spec and quality wise, they just don't hold pace with other well-regarded import brands. I was gonna put them in C, but the necks on the CT50, SR50 are genuinely so good. They put Sterling in their Jansport and backpacked the brand to B. What next? Edwards. I'm gonna put them in S tier. If you're not familiar with them, they're Navigator's more affordable brand, part of the ESP family, distributed exclusively in Japan. And to be honest, they don't do anything super unique. They just make really fucking good guitars for the money. The ones I've played are basically almost equivalent to Gibson USA guitars in terms of quality, at under half the price. It's staggering how good they are. They've even got some nitro finished models for that extra quote-unquote correct feel, or authentic feel, if you will. It's been years. Are we still making fun of Mark Agnesi for this? Anyways, Edwards isn't as inexpensive as they were a few years ago, as more people hear about them. But if you're American, the exchange rate is very much in your favor right now. If you're looking for premium feeling traditional style guitars, you're not gonna do better than Edwards right now in the reasonably priced category. S tier all day. And I thought about including Grassroots in the tier list as well, because they look amazing value for the money. They're ESP Japan's budget brand, made in Korea. They have all the correct shapes, ebony boards for less than $500. And while I'm sure they're great quality guitars, because that's just what ESP does, I've not had the privilege of playing one myself, so I can't really rank them. Then Donner, every YouTuber's favorite budget brand. The thing I can say about Donner is, in my experience, you're getting exactly what you'd expect. And I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way. They're fun. I've enjoyed the Donners I've tried. They're $200 guitars that feel like $200 guitars, you know what I mean? Expect to have to do some minor to major fretwork. Fingerboard's gonna be a little dry maybe. Pickups that aren't great, but they work, they make noise. Plastic nut, tuners that are kind of jumpy, a bridge that isn't great, but it works. You see the theme here? It's a playable instrument, good mod platform, but compared to Squier or especially Harley Benton, the quality isn't even close. I feel kind of bad because they are fun, and their mini pedals are great, but I'm gonna have to put them in C tier. Like, a low C tier. I don't think it's fair to put them alongside other brands that are gonna go in D tier, because they're not necessarily an avoid at all costs brand. And they do have some interesting models in the lineup, like their take on Jackson's DK24 Modern. It's not just Strat and bolt-on Les Paul copies, you know, the thing that everyone else does. They're just one of those brands where quality tends to be all over the place. It's a fun gamble, but it's hard to recommend them versus other super budget brands. Now, 10S, and this pains me as well because we go way back, but I'm gonna have to put them in C as well. And I currently have a couple of 10S guitars. I really like them. Custom built 7-string single cut with stainless steel frets and a poplar burl top. Aged shell pink custom as well. They're the only brand I know of that will do nitro finishes for under $500. And it's got a great ebony fingerboard, real mother of pearl inlays. Like, I genuinely enjoy these guitars, and they are really good value for the money. But man, their customer service is really bad. They're one of those companies that took on too many orders too quickly, because there are people that ordered custom builds through them. They've taken the deposit and then they've just disappeared for months. No updates, no pictures, no emails, no smoke signals, no carrier pigeons, nothing. They just got overwhelmed with orders, but no communication is super uncool and not a good sign. That being said, if you buy the guitars through Reverb, everything seems to be all good and you have the buyer protection. Avoid the custom shop, because the production guitars are definitely good bang for buck. Again, especially those nitro finished models. If we're just talking about the guitars, I'd say borderline A tier, but the severely lacking customer service drops them into C tier. It's just not good enough in this day and age. Buyer beware on their custom shop. Hopefully that improves going forward. Now, Schecter. Schecter are a lot of people's favorite guitar brand, and it's easy to see why. For the prices, they generally have great specs and solid, consistent build quality. They're one of the only brands to put Lundgren pickups into their production models, which is incredible. They have the same owner as ESP, so they're putting a lot of stainless steel frets on their higher end models, and they've got a reputation as the drywall punching, monster energy, butt-chugging metal brand. Listen, they've earned it, but they actually have a really extensive and diverse catalog of guitars. Everything from the expected 8-string multi-scales and edgy metal guitars, but they also do Nick Johnston's modern traditional signatures. They do semi-hollows with Bigsby's, a 30-inch scale length Hellcat 6, even the wacky Ultra 3, which is super retro, but with modern spec appointments. Schecter does a lot of shit, and they do it well. Some people are boycotting Schecter because they made MGK's signature. That's dumb, but I guess I understand it. They just don't necessarily feel alive in the same way that other brands' guitars do. But that's a personal thing. I'll even forgive them for all the friggin' abalone they were throwing on every model in the mid-2000s. The specs and quality are great for the money. The diversity of the lineup is nuts. Not my favorite brand, but you have to respect what they're doing, and at the prices they're doing it for, S tier. And I'm not sure where to put Wild Audio, because they've got a worldwide distribution deal with Schecter, who also seem to have a hand in manufacturing. Like, Wild Audio guitars are made in the same factory as Schecter guitars, but I don't know, from the ones I've tried, they felt weirdly cheap and plasticky for the price. I don't know, the Bullseye Odin Grail is pretty cool, and I definitely want to try it, but in general, the designs can be kind of tacky. D tier would be a bit harsh, so I guess C tier, not because they're bad guitars, they're just overpriced for what they are. They feel cheap compared to other guitars in the price category. Next up is Glary, and I've only had one experience with Glary. That will be the last time. They sent me a Burning Fire hoping that I'd make a video on it, and genuinely, besides the Wish.com guitar, it is the worst guitar-shaped object I've ever experienced. And we'll get to that Wish.com guitar, believe that. Ignoring how tacky it looks, it feels ultra cheap. The frets were corroding out of the box, neck was twisted. Genuinely, I have no idea how it's even scientifically possible to have a fingerboard this fucking dry. A friend asked if it had been excavated from King Tut's tomb. Absolute piece of shit. D tier for this brand. There is no excuse for any guitar this bad to have left the warehouse. And then this would usually be another hard one to rank, but I'm gonna put Ibanez in A tier. I know, that's probably a big surprise to regular viewers of the channel because I've talked a lot of shit about Ibanez. But the reason I'm putting it in A tier is because whether it's the $1,000 premium series or the much more affordable Geo or AZ Essentials, the quality is so solid across the line. Definitely wasn't always the case, but recently that's been my experience with them. And they're not my favorite brand. I can't stand the flat fingerboards and super thin necks, but the specs are good for the money with the Ibanez premiums and Axion label stuff, and the quality is consistent even on the $200 guitars, which is really impressive. Harley Benton, and okay, my full normal disclosure here, they have me on retainer to help design and spec out certain specialty models like the $200 30-inch scale length baritone Jazzmaster, the Amaroks, and I have a signature model with them, which is an amazing guitar, and that automatically brings the brand up to S tier, obviously. No, I jest, but the reason I decided to join them in a highly limited role is because they legit changed the game. The first Fusion series was mind-blowing. They were adding stainless steel frets and Floyd Rose 1000s, stuff you are only seeing on the high-tier imports like the Chapman Pro series. They were putting roasted maple on affordable guitars years before Squier and Sterling did. I mean, it's just crazy. Roasted maple necks and stainless steel frets, which just a few years ago were boutique, custom shop only features on $400 guitars. Up until last year, Harley Benton had more models with stainless steel frets than LTD did. And as I said, LTD is usually the progressive featured trendsetter, and Harley Benton was doing it for half the price. Now, Harley Bentons are made all over the place. The lower end ones can be really shit. Like really shit. The higher end ones though, they're made in the same Indonesian facilities that the bigger brands you know and love use. And they're the house brand of Thomann, the largest music instrument retailer in Europe, not some random Chinese brand with a throwaway name. Although the name does kind of suck, and they know it too. But the Germans take QC very seriously. The guitars are checked when they arrive from the factory, checked again before they go out to customers. You know, a QC process normally reserved for more expensive guitars. And the Fusions alone make Harley Benton S tier. They've added so many new variations on that this year. They've also been building a sub $200 Stealth Black series that's super popular as well. They've added stainless steel frets to the $250 SC552s. And they've just launched a reverb store that ships from the US instead of Germany, which means you can also return guitars to the US instead of sending them back to Germany if you don't like them. Yeah, they're just really pushing other brands to start implementing higher end features on lower cost guitars. So for me, that's an S tier. Again, I have that association with them. but the only reason that association exists is because I thought they were S tier. And Solar Guitars has been absolutely killing it. While everyone else was struggling to launch new guitars and get instruments to customers, Solar was out here launching new models almost weekly. Their lineup has grown so much. Like, at their core, they're a metal brand, and they have all the trans blood red models, but they've also got like traditional vibe single cuts, and they've got the roasted maple bolt-ons, stainless steel frets, and lumen lays on higher tier guitars. And Solar has the lowest cost to entry into the world of Evertune. Ola has placed them all across the lineup in different shapes and 6-string and extended range. I'm pretty sure they have the widest selection of Evertune models out of any brand, which is really impressive because they're a much smaller company than LTD or Schecter. That alone affords them S tier. Michael Kelly, solid B tier. Quality wise, the guitars are good. They're fine. They feel like guitars. Very Schecter-like in that regard, where they're well built. There's nothing really wrong with them. They just don't feel alive. The fun thing about Michael Kelly is that they are reasonably priced guitars with a huge variety of exotic tops in their catalog. They were one of the first brands I remember to look like boutique custom shop guitars without boutique custom shop prices. The Patriot Instinct immediately comes to mind. They've discontinued the 507 and 508 though, and those were their coolest ones. So yeah, B tier. Okay, let's talk about Jericho now. They're definitely one of the smaller brands on the list, but I wanted to talk about them because I think they're really cool. I remember seeing them pop up on Instagram years ago and just being absolutely wowed by the Edge 6 NT in blue. Ebony board, stainless steel frets, Seymour Duncans, 5-piece neck through, hip shot hardware, and for around $1,000, that was good value at the time. Tried one, thought it was a great player, just never bonded with the 16-inch fingerboard radius. Since then, they seem to have slimmed their lineup back quite a bit, and the pricing isn't quite as tempting as it once was. In fact, they're kind of expensive now, but they've got that sick, modern, classy vibe, so I'm gonna still put them in B. Let's talk about Fender's Mexico line now. They must have changed something in their Mexico facility because the fingerboard edges on the guitars being pumped out of that factory now are fantastic. They are so rounded. These necks are starting to feel more comfortable than some of the American Fender necks I've played recently. I'm gonna put MIM Fender in B tier. They're solid guitars, especially good now that they've got the super rolled fingerboard edges. Just, Fender went insane with the pricing this year, and they aren't the awesome bang for buck that they were before. I mean, maybe they are compared to American Fenders, but that's only because the American Fenders went up in price too. Next is Charvel, and I've always felt Charvel have great necks. Some of my favorite super strats of all time are Charvels because the necks feel so good. And this year they've gotten even better. The ones made in Fender's Mexico factory, the fingerboard edges are so round now, they're so comfortable. Whatever Fender is doing at the Mexico facility, keep doing it because it's fucking working. They've also introduced some sweet signature models this year, including Sean Long's, Phil Segrosso's. Both are ridiculously cool. Big fan of what Charvel is doing. I'm gonna put them in A. Fender's pricing is, again, a little whack, but the necks are so good. Fender loses me with Jackson though. I don't really understand. They're priced the same as LTD or Schecter, but they're clearly out-spec'd. For example, no Jackson comes with stainless steel frets, and at every price point, the quality isn't as consistent as LTD or Schecter either. I guess, C tier? Their imports are just so far behind the other metal brands, it's really difficult to rank them highly this year. Fender is putting a lot more emphasis into Jackson recently though, so hopefully that'll change going forward. We'll see next year. Then EVH in 2022 is a lot like Kramer in that they're a one-trick pony. It's all about the 80s shred vibes, but EVH does it better. The biggest thing for me is, again, those rolled fingerboard edges, and it makes them feel like more premium guitars at the same or even lower price points than Kramer. And then they also have the aged Frankenstein models, which are very, very cool and only they can make. So I'm gonna go with B tier, a tier above Kramer, because again, they're like Kramer, but better. Then Slick. I really like this brand. They're super affordable guitars that go about things in a completely different way to your normal budget brands. They're not just trying to get a Strat copy out the door for as cheap as possible. You know what I mean? The sandblasted ash bodies are crazy. At $200, they're basically worth a punt for the body alone because ash blasted bodies are generally quite expensive. And then it's got stuff like brass saddles, brass tuning keys, aged pickup covers, just stuff that you don't find on any other $200 budget guitar. The one I tried sounded pretty alright. Playability was okay. But again, it's the way that they're going about budget guitars in a completely different and cool way that puts them in B tier. Then Chapman. And Chapman has had a rough time recently. We won't get into all the drama, let's just talk guitar-wise. As a single cut fanatic, the new ML2 shape is a bit of a miss. I understand a certain company's lawyers made them redesign it, but that just ain't it. The new standard series guitars look really fun though. I have a soft spot for Chapman, and I really dig the voting and audience collaboration aspect. And since everyone involved is a guitar player, they really dig into the minutia to make great playing guitars, even if on paper they look very similar to other import brands. With the new relaunched lineups, I'm gonna give them A. Specs for the money are still pretty good with the Pro Series, and then their standard series guitars have some of the best rolled fingerboard edges in the game, and that's a huge deal in terms of making them feel premium quality. Then let's talk about Firefly. Now Firefly is one of those generic Chinese brands that pop out of nowhere and die out just as quickly, except they haven't died. They've stuck around because their guitars are actually pretty decent. You know, these guys hit peak hype a couple of years ago with videos that popped off on 60 Cycle Hum and Daryl Braun's channel, to the point where as soon as they were in stock, scalpers would snag all of them and then resell them on eBay for double the price sometimes. And there were buyers willing to pay, because double 150 is 300, which still puts them in budget guitar territory. Luckily, that's not the case anymore. And as I said, Firefly actually makes very decent guitars for the insanely cheap prices. A full set neck Les Paul standard copy is about 200 bucks, depending on what version you get. And the one I played had a little bit of fret roughness, but it really wasn't too bad. So I'll put them in C tier because the build quality is solid. They kind of don't do anything other rock bottom priced import brands don't. They just have a better and well-earned reputation than most in this category. Dean, now what the fuck is going on with Dean? They went full live fast, eat ass for a while. You had the Gibson lawsuits, the Dime lawsuit, the embezzlement allegations, the rumors about management issues, the CEO left. The company seems like a bit of a mess, but the guitars are pretty good. I'm gonna put them in B as well because the guitars are decently built. Again, made in the same factories as LTD and Schecter. Their lineup, unfortunately, has shrunk by several iconic shapes this year. The Z, the V, the Razorback. Unlike LTD and Schecter, they aren't doing stainless steel frets on their higher end imports. They are the one big brand that shows Kaler a lot of love though. They even have multi-scale Kaler models, something no one else does. So as of right now, tail end of 2022, I'll give him B tier. Next year is going to be real interesting though. It's kind of a make or break year for Dean. I'm just going to have to wait and see what happens. Continuing the theme of, well, what the heck happened to him, BC Rich. They came out swinging with a whole new relaunch, new owners, new lineup. This was supposed to be the rebirth of BC Rich. You had the modern line and the classic line, everything would be neck through, love that. Then they got absolutely wrecked with pandemic production problems, and really haven't heard anything about them since. The guitars were on the site, and nowhere else. And since that relaunch, everything else in that modern metal $1,500 plus price range has started putting stainless steel frets. They haven't. I hope they're getting guitars to dealers. Everything seems to be consistently out of stock. They did that collaboration with Stranger Things, which good for them, that's huge. I mean, I love how they know their legacy. They have their iconic super pointy shapes that they're bringing to a new generation of guitar players. The prices are just really high, if you can even find one. But yeah, I'm hoping for the best with BC Rich. Still want to try one of those 10 strings, but for modern metal guitars, just like with Jackson, they really have to add stainless steel frets if they want to compete with LTD and Schecter. But I really respect how they're sticking to their roots. So it's looking a bit crowded, but this is a B tier as well. Let's talk about Cort now. Cort is the house brand for Cortec, who run the factories that produce a lot of your favorite guitars. So Cort basically just takes some of those popular guitars, makes minor tweaks, and sells them for a lower price. Nice, nothing wrong with that, I guess. From the ones I've tried, quality has been pretty decent. I feel like as a house brand, they could be better for what they're pricing them at, or the price could be lower. And while there is a lot of variety, there's no cohesion to the lineup. I don't know, man. Cort just seems all over the place. I'm gonna put them in B because they're alright. Now, Wish.com. Under no circumstances should you order a guitar from Wish.com. I know it's tempting. Inflation sucks. Everything is expensive. except for Wish.com guitars, but you may as well pull that money out of an ATM and light it on fire. At least then you might feel like a bit of a baller, instead of an absolute idiot from buying a guitar from Wish.com. My luthier has described this as paying full price for a carnival prize guitar. Literally everything about this guitar, besides the color, is pretty trash. The color is cool, I will give it that, but everything else is a genuine waste of raw materials. Neck is twisted, fretwork non-existent, electronics are scratchy, pickups weak as fuck. It's like the Spirit Airlines of guitars. Super cheap initial cost, but by the time you're done fixing all the issues, you've spent more than you would have if you just spent a little more upfront to get a much better experience. And you've wasted time that you're just not getting back. I genuinely feel bad for the trees that died to make that thing. It's fucking D tier. AliExpress, again, similar messaging. Do not buy guitars from AliExpress. Again, I know it's tempting, a custom build for a couple $100. If by some miracle you get a good one, congratulations, you beat the odds. Generally speaking, these guitars are plagued with issues, most minor, but sometimes major. The 7-string Hello Kitty I got is funny as fuck, but the bridge was placed too far forward, and so the scale length was off. It had major intonation issues. Solved that with an Evertune that cost more than the guitar. And the truss rod is completely non-functional. It's there for show, I guess because they didn't bother to put a working one in, and now it's bowed to hell and the guitar is completely unplayable without buying a new neck. And where do you think the seller went when I reported these issues? Yeah, I don't know either. They got my money, then f***ed off. If something goes wrong with your guitar that you got from AliExpress, you're on your own. Generally, there is no customer service after you get it. D tier. Learn from my mistakes. Don't do that. Then Legator. How is Legator doing in 2022? The quality has gotten much better. That used to be a big issue a couple years ago. And they've got some genuinely cool models. The NFX series is sick. Fishman Fluence, Pale Moon fingerboard, and some absolutely ridiculous tops. Now, quality issues aside, the other problem with Legator is the owner has said something a little blatantly anti-Semitic a few years ago, which is really uncool. And he apologized after there was backlash, and I'm all for forgiveness and growth, but like, yeah, totally not the vibe. Now, it's been a few years, so are we cool now? What's the guideline on this? Like 5 years? That's a joke. Don't actually answer that. Yeah, I'll give him probably B, if we're just talking about guitars. The pricing is a little high, but they also have some really unique production models that would probably cost even more from other brands. And the last one, I almost forgot about Gretsch. I can't believe I almost forgot about Gretsch when putting this tier list together. They make a 30-inch scale length baritone single cut with a Bigsby, and it's not expensive. They're going A tier. I don't even care. But that will do it for my import brands tier list video as they stand in 2022. Just make a quick tier list video. They said it'll be fun. They said 30 minutes later. But I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know which ones you agree with, which ones you maybe took issue with, and of course, let me know what tier list video you'd like to see in the future. Also, if you made it this far, make sure you're subscribed so that way I can personally drop guitar information and guitar content into your sub feed. Make sure to hit the notification bell, that way you know the minute a new video goes live. Massive shout out to the awesome patrons who make this and all the other content possible. If you want to support the channel as well, get bonus extras, link in the description. You can also join as a channel member to get custom emoticons. It's a great way to support the channel as well. Social media, merch, and Discord server links are in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I will see you for the next video.